Hello, everyone, and happy Wednesday. Thank you all for joining us today for another Hits Different Talk this American Diabetes Month. My name is Abby Bornemeyer, and I'm the Social Media and Digital Events Manager here at the American Diabetes Association. Today, we are joined by a very special guest, Cheria Moore, and it's actually her birthday today. So happy birthday, Cheria.
Thank you.
We're so excited to have her on here and just have her share her diabetes journey and story and just a little bit about how diabetes hits different for her. So without further ado, Sharia, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me, Abby. I'm so
Of
excited.
course. We're so happy to have you here. How are you doing today on
I
your
am doing
birthday?
I am doing great. It feels great to be 31. God is good and I'm happy.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your Wednesday and your birthday to talk with us this American Diabetes Month. We're really excited, and I know everyone tuning in right now is really excited. And if you are tuning in right now, just get ready to be inspired and learn from Sharia. And if you have any questions too for her, feel free to drop them in the chat. And as we go along, we'll try to answer them. But this is meant to be just a conversation, and we're really excited. It looks like we already have someone who put in here. They're watching from Jamaica, so that is really cool.
Cool.
Very
Very
cool.
cool. Welcome.
Well, thank you, everyone. And Sharia, why don't we start out by having you introduce yourself?
All right, sure. So my name is Sharia Moore. I am currently located in Huntsville, Alabama, though I'm originally from Chicago. And I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes on September 13th of 2021. And it was really a change for me. It completely changed the course of my life, where I was headed. I had to learn about the disease and just start doing the work, and it completely changed the trajectory of my life.
Wow. Well, thank you for telling us a little bit about when you were diagnosed. And I'm sure it wasn't an easy diagnosis to get and hear that. But could you tell us a little bit, like, what was going through your mind when you heard that you had type 2 diabetes?
Well, first off, I was definitely shocked because I knew it was in my genetic makeup. You know, my father has it, his mother had it, so I knew it was in my, it was genetic. But I thought I had at least like, another 50 years before I had to either deal with it or just start making the adjustments to that kind of lifestyle. But yeah, I was 29 when I found out. I was devastated. I really just thought my life was over before it even started, because I really put my life on pause when I graduated college because my mom got sick. And to have my own health called into question and I have to reevaluate everything is, it was pretty sad. But luckily, I had an awesome support circle, and also I had to learn the disease and just realize like my life is not over just because I have this diagnosis. That I can still live a full life. I can still have children. I can lower my A1C, which I did in the past year.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing a little bit about, what was going through your mind when you were diagnosed. It isn't easy. It's hard hearing a diagnosis like that. And so, I mean, the fact too that you realize that you can still live your life to the fullest, that is 100% true. And everyone watching too, please know that diabetes doesn't define you just because you're living with that. So we're really glad to hear too that you're continuing to live life fully and moving forward. Did you know much about diabetes? I know you said you had some family members who had it and you thought maybe like you possibly could get it someday in life, but possibly a lot later. Did you know though, like all what diabetes entails, like what management is like? Or
Mhm. I knew like the I don't want to say the shallow part, but I knew very little about it because I thought that was something that I could put off for like another, few decades. And when I had found out my father was diagnosed when I was in college, I just thought like, oh, okay, you have to put the cookie down, what everybody else thinks. When really it was my own ignorance for not knowing that it does not discriminate. You can get
Mhm.
it at any age. You only have one body. You have to take care of it. And then there is also a type where people are born with it.
Mhm.
So really, I had to just dive headfirst into the the tools that were available to me. And when I joined Weight Watchers, they had rolled out a program tailored to people living with diabetes. And while I can't speak for everyone, it definitely helped me learn because the group that I'm in, a lot of like-minded women had the same struggle. So I had the support from my family. I had the support from the women's group at Weight Watchers, and my father to lean on as well because he's currently living with type 2 diabetes.
Wow. See, living with diabetes like that, it's a lot. It's a
It
lot.
is.
I'm glad though that you found that support system to help you with that. I mean, it's such a transition. So
Hmm.
having that support is so important. So it brings me to my next question. So what physical and mental challenges have you experienced now living with diabetes?
So I have experienced depression. I struggled in my youth with suicidal ideation. And just because I received this diagnosis, I thought, like I previously said, my life was over before it started. And I had to go back to counseling because just having to check your blood sugar every day, I had to get used to, like poking myself several times a day, taking medication, cutting out foods that I loved but were not good for me, and seeking counseling because so much goes into just being diabetic. It's not all about, though fitness and overall health is beneficial to someone living with diabetes type 1 or 2. It is very much holistic. Like your mental health and every area in your life goes into that.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you know were real and shared that story too, because a lot of people just don't feel comfortable sharing their story and sharing everything that they're experiencing with diabetes. It doesn't just affect your body, it affects your mind too. So you really have to take care of your mental health when you're living with
Mm-hmm.
diabetes, because those all those thoughts and everything will, I mean, they add up and they can take
Yeah.
over, and you don't want that. There's so many people out there who are here to support you. Whether it's like a support group. I mean, the ADA, we're always here to support you too. We're always just a reach away. Just share your story with us. We're here to listen. And counseling too, there's nothing wrong, and no one should ever feel ashamed of
Mm-hmm.
wanting to get counseling for they're living with diabetes. There's so many things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really glad that you mentioned that. Are there any other ways too that you manage your mental health now living with diabetes? Are there maybe special hobbies that help you manage it?
Hmm. So journaling is a big help for me. I also run a lifestyle blog that I update my readers on. I did take a break for the past couple of months just for to focus on my mental health. So I've poured into my church here in Alabama, my best friend Samantha, my mother, my father, my siblings, because everyone knows that if you give something to me, I'm going to learn it so I can flip it and hand it back to you to overcome it. So when diabetes has definitely been one of the biggest things I've conquered, but I'm an overcomer.
That's awesome. You are an overcomer. I love it. And so you mentioned you have this lifestyle blog. Could you let people know who are tuning in where they could find it, or if they could, how they could follow along on your journey if you're
Yeah,
okay doing so?
yeah. So I document a lot of my success on my Instagram page. You can follow me at XO Cheria on Instagram, and my blog is called Queenship. That's the queenshipblog.com, and I update biweekly.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So it looks like too in the comments, everyone is being so inspired by your story, and people are saying continue to share your victory. And this is awesome to hear, other people being inspired by your conversations, and, other people who are probably going through similar things. It's really great to be able to have this time just to talk about, the real what diabetes really is for everyone. So this is great. Now, another question that I have for you is, what changes have seen or experienced with diabetes. Now, this could be interpreted a few ways because I know you haven't been living with it for so long, but it's also been in your family, so you have seen changes that way too. But I guess as a whole, since this month's American Diabetes Month theme is today's diabetes hits different. What changes would you say you've seen or experienced too? Maybe there was a moment that you experienced now that your diabetes hits different.
So my diabetes has hit different. I've had to make several lifestyle changes. I have added fitness into my routine. My fitness hobbies are yoga. I started running again. I took Pure Bar for the first time, so that was pretty awesome, as well as aerial yoga. I like to challenge myself, and I did have to cut back on certain foods because my blood sugar levels are important. I have to check those throughout the day. I added more whole grains, fresh fruits and veggies, as well as lean protein. And I have to just take things one day at a time. I have a dog. I walk him 2 or 3 times a day, and that has helped. And also, I have dropped since I started taking my health more seriously. I have dropped over 65 pounds, so that has made a difference. And I feel so much better. I used to think diabetes was a disease that you would face when you get older, or if you were to, like a lot of people say, eat too many sweets. But really, it's genetic. It can just be triggered at any time. You have to take care of yourself, but you also have to love yourself during the process. Because like I said, a lot of other areas of health goes into managing your diabetes.
Absolutely. I'm glad too that you shared a little bit more about your journey that you've gotten into Pure Bar aerial yoga, and it's helped you also to lose weight and just feel better too. That's awesome. See, just because you're living with diabetes doesn't mean you can keep pushing forward and you can be healthy too, living with it, which is great. So I'm sure there's people too who are tuning in right now who maybe were newly diagnosed or, at risk for type 2 diabetes. I guess, what advice would you give someone who's newly diagnosed with type 2 diabetes?
I would definitely say do your research, because I'm sure, like a lot of people, I thought I would get it when I was older, or that I was fine because I was young. You have to take care of your body. You only are here one time in life. There are no do-overs, and that it's okay to be scared the first time, but you have the internet, you have books, you have dietitians, people you can go see to teach you, and those who can support you.
Absolutely. You have one life and you have to make it worthwhile and you have to take care of yourself. So that is great advice. And is there anything to Cheria that you wish you would have known before you were diagnosed with diabetes?
I wish that I would have taken it more seriously. I really believe that I was one track minded, believing that because of my youth, it would hold off any genetic makeup that I have for diabetes and other diseases that are in my family. It was pretty naive of me to think so. So I wish that I would have taken my health more seriously long before I was diagnosed.
That is great advice. Taking your health more seriously. I mean, at any time too, because it is so easy to push it off and be like,
Mm-hmm.
no, putting it off because, maybe life's just stressful. You're like, I'll
Mm-hmm.
get to it tomorrow. I'll get to it next month or next year.
Right.
Really making it a priority because, every day it is being affected and impacted. And, to be able to take those little steps every day and those precautions, I mean, I do think they go a long way. So I think that is also good advice for anyone too who might be maybe in the same boat that you were as well.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for sharing that. Other people said that's good. Wow. So you're sharing inspirational advice.
Thank you.
You have a lot of fans in here.
That's awesome.
Yeah, love you. Someone said It looks like Crystalline said that. Aw, and you have people tuning in from all over. So this is amazing. Now, Cheria, this brings me to my final question for you. Just in today's, like today, in your words, how would you say diabetes is different? It could be however you want to interpret it that way. How do you think diabetes is different than it was before?
Diabetes is different than it was before because we have medical practices that are a lot more advanced. We have products that you can buy over the counter, such as your glucose meter, your blood pressure cuff. You have things at your disposal that they didn't have 50 years ago. Because on my father's side, there are people who had succumbed, unfortunately, to diabetes because they either didn't have the resources available to them or they didn't bother to get educated. We have to take advantage of what's available to us in today's time.
Absolutely, we do. And, diabetes has changed. It's continuing to evolve. There are so many resources available for people who are newly diagnosed, living with diabetes, or have been for a while. There's so many things. Not saying that it makes it easier, but there's so many things, you're right, that we all need to take advantage of just to make life ultimately a little bit easier and living with diabetes a lot more
Mhm.
manageable. But this has been great, Sharia. Is there anything else too that you want to share with those listening in on your journey with diabetes?
Yes, for those listening in, please know that each journey is different, but you are
Mhm.
never alone. That is one thing I can promise you. You can lean on someone in your inner circle. You can lean on your church, which is what I do. I lean on my parents and my siblings, my best friends, coworkers. Even my coworker had actually witnessed me breaking down because the stress of trying to manage everything all at once was so triggering for me. So it's okay to be humble, but surround yourself with people who love you, who have good intentions, trust God, and those who can hold you accountable. And if you absolutely feel like you have no one, reach out to me. Again, you can find me on Instagram. I get a plethora of messages quite often, but that's the kind of person I am because you are never alone. And it's extremely difficult, but you learn, you have to get educated, and most of all, hold yourself accountable.
Thank you for that. That is a very, very powerful message. And I like how you said, hold yourself accountable. And thank you too for, letting people know who are tuning in that they can always reach out to you as well. It is always great to connect, with other people living with diabetes, people in different places around the world that you might not know otherwise. So that's definitely a positive of social media nowadays. But thank
Mm-hmm.
you for that. And yes, like we say too at the ADA, you are never alone. Find that support system. There's so many people who care about you. Don't keep those feelings bottled up inside because just because you're living with diabetes doesn't mean you can't still, do everything that you did before you had
Mm-hmm.
diabetes. You can still do all of it and do way more. You can do everything you ever dreamed of living with diabetes.
Yes.
It's something you live with. It doesn't define you. You are not labeled you're not labeled a person. You're not
Yes.
labeled diabetes. You're not diabetes like you, Sharia. You're Sharia.
Exactly. My friends identify me by so many things. They're like Sharia the overcomer, Sharia the advocate, the fighter, this and that. And really it just boils down to I'm just me.
Absolutely. You are you, which is so important. And I think it's becoming, I think people are becoming more open to sharing their stories, but there's still a lot more progress that we do have to make of getting people, more comfortable with it. Because I know there's always been stigma. People have always felt uncomfortable sharing their diabetes stories because they're worried about feeling judged by other people like they did it to themselves, which is totally untrue because you can get
Mm-hmm.
diabetes just like hereditary. It's something that just happens to you.
Yes.
Um, you and someone, Donna, in the comments said you are strong, and yes, you are, Shreya. I 100% agree. No, this has been great, and it looks like we have another comment too from Mike. He's wondering about possibly being on a live event in the future. Mike, if you ever want to share your story or anyone else who's listening in, just like Sharia, visit our diabetes.org/blog page. It's super helpful. You can share your story on there too. And then, we'll reach out to you and get in contact with you about maybe doing a Be a Friend Friday or another talk like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's different talk. We're always here, and we love to share as many stories throughout the year, not just during American Diabetes Month. Or message us on Instagram or Facebook. We're always here, and we love to share these stories. But thank you so much, everyone, and thank you, Cheria, for being part of this event and, showing the real side of diabetes and everything that you live with, and the emotions that you feel with it, because it's a lot. And I really appreciate your openness and willingness to share your journey, because no journeys are the same. Like you mentioned, they're all different, and it's so important. That's how we learn from each other, hearing other people's stories and journeys. So thank you, everyone. And if you're interested in learning more about American Diabetes Month and this month's different activations we're doing, I highly encourage you to visit diabetes.org/hitsdifferent. There's a lot of different resources on there and different, ways that you can get involved too this month and beyond. So thank you, everyone. And Cheria, this has been amazing. We would love to have you back sometime also for a part 2.
Definitely would love to do so. Thank you so much, Abby.
Absolutely, but appreciate it. And thank you for everyone tuning in right now. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, the rest of your week, and American Diabetes Month. So stay tuned for more events to come this month. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.